The Doom reboot does not make you wait for the gore. In the first 15 seconds, you've already crushed a demon's head to pulp with your bare hands. Within the first minute, you're already armed and popping heads like balloons. Within the first 5 minutes, you're suited up and painting the walls red. At times, you're moving so fast through so many bodies that evisceration starts to feel more like a form of locomotion than anything. Guts and gore are how you move through this world. Doom is not a shy game. It doesn't hide what it's about. It even tells you in the opening cinematic verbatim that you're here to rip and tear until it is done. In fact, Doom is so disinterested in anything else, the first time anyone even tries to have a conversation with you, you end it early by punching the intercom they're talking to you through. The Doom reboot and its sequel are obviously extremes. They're obviously pushing the boundaries of how violent they can be, what their violence can look like. And they've done that well, I think. Dare I say, even tastefully. This is a series that makes hyperviolence, guts, gore, gibbs, palatable, even for a more mainstream audience. But that thing I said before, about violence being the primary mode of engagement here, more or less how you traverse the world in these games, that part isn't quite so unusual. In fact, at the risk of sounding like a Sunday school teacher, I'd say a huge proportion of video games in general, maybe even the majority, use violence in exactly this way. Even games that don't look violent. Fortnite, with its bright colors and advertiser-friendly aesthetics, is still, at its core, a game where you shoot people to death. Pokémon is the highest-grossing media franchise in the world, and it's essentially fantasy dogfighting. Even in some of the cutest, most kid-friendly games around, like Mario or Kirby, you're still stomping on Koopas and devouring Waddle Dees. I get it for Doom, obviously. That's Doom. Violence is the whole point. But how does it even belong in these other games? Why default to it? Surely these games could have had some other actions, other ways of interacting with their worlds. I mean, in real life, most humans seem averse to violence. You have entire social frameworks designed to deter it, to keep it as far from the average person's life as possible. And yet, here you are, not just enjoying it, but turning it into a form of play. It's just confusing from the outside. If you humans really think of violence as such a bad thing, then why are you so hell-bent on making it so ridiculously fun? Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian is admittedly not a game, it's a novel, but I bring it up here because it holds what I think is one of the keys to understanding this violent play you humans are always engaged in. If you haven't read it, there is no way I can do it justice for you here, but in the roughest terms, it's about a gang of scalp hunters and their campaign of terror across the old American Southwest. Like Doom, it is in many ways about the violence, just in a different way. The things these men do will horrify you. You will wonder as you read, what redeemable trait do they have? Why would the story follow them? What do they have to offer? What's the point of all this killing and bloodshed and wanton cruelty? Why do I need to see the murder of all these innocent men and women and children and animals? Unlike Doom, Blood Meridian's violence is very matter-of-fact. Brutal, yes, but in realistic ways. There is no need to exaggerate. The horrors of mere men out in the world are more than enough. We're just here to witness them. As if to put a finer point on that, there is someone among them who is not merely a man. Judge Holden, the towering albino, the mysterious prophet, the one at the center of all this violence, acts as a sort of incarnation of the story's brutality, a mouthpiece for it. Throughout the book, he pontificates about the nature of the world they live in and their role as human beings who are willing, even destined, to do violence in it. Men are born for games, he says to the gang during a debate at camp. Nothing else. Men know too that the worth or merit of a game is not inherent to the game itself, but rather in the value of that which is put at hazard. This is particularly meaningful coming from the judge. Despite his charm, his scholarly vocabulary, his affable nature, the judge is as close to pure evil as I have ever seen. Even the other gang members, as drenched in blood as they may be, can see what he is. He's an avatar of evil, a demonic presence. He is more intimately acquainted with the darkness of the human heart than anyone else in their company, maybe anyone else on Earth. He is the authority on all wickedness. And by his reckoning, it's all just a game. Of course, any game must have stakes. To the judge, violence is simply how humans create them. Any considerations of morality are secondary. To him, violence is just a form of play. And, as the judge says, every child knows that play is nobler than work. Not only does the judge find the crimes of the game justifiable, he finds them necessary. Not once does he ever show a hint of hesitation or empathy. He doesn't just find it easy to engage in vile acts, he believes that his penchant for cruelty is a core part of human nature. When I think about how ubiquitous violence is in games, and pretty much all entertainment for that matter, part of me worries that the judge is right. I mean, if the value of a game is in its stakes, then it would stand to reason that violence, even so far removed from reality as to be unrecognizable, would form the basis for so much play. Maybe the judge is onto something when he says that war is the ultimate game. Maybe violence is just human nature. Hatred is perhaps one of the most appropriately titled games of all time. It's a perfect description of how people tend to feel about it. It's a game notorious not necessarily for its content, but for the massive backlash it received on release. It's hardly the first game to stir up the old video game violence controversy, but it might just be the most iconic. A cursory glance at the game is more than enough to understand the outrage. Even its announcement trailer was just irredeemably provocative. The voiceover reads like a middle schooler's edgy 4chan post, describing how the main character wants to carry out a, quote, genocide crusade against the human worms feasting on the world's carcass. A Polygon article by Colin Campbell described the emotion in their newsroom when they first watched it as one of genuine revulsion. This was the general sentiment among the major outlets. When the game released in 2015, predictably it was almost universally panned. Okay, I'm not going to act like it was some mystery why hatred was so hated. I feel it myself, obviously. But I bring it up here because I think it serves as an interesting counterpoint to the judge's perspective. If the judge were right, if violence were just human nature, and if suffering and death are the stakes that make it worthwhile, wouldn't people have loved this game? I mean, here's an opportunity to turn those basest violent instincts into pure, unadulterated, vindictive, malicious play, right? There is no other point to playing hatred. But they didn't. And I think that means something. I also think it means something that the Doom reboot, a game that came out less than a year later, indisputably more violent by raw volume of blood and gore alone, was so loved. The thing about Doom is that, unlike hatred, it isn't cruel. Yes, you may be ripping and tearing apart demons, and you may have a really good time doing it, but they're demons. It's a fantasy. It's over-the-top, ridiculous, almost a parody of violence. Compare that to what you get in hatred, mission objectives like annihilate the funeral procession or run over the pedestrians. The difference is hard to miss. As GameSpot's Justin Clark put it, hatred's attempted power fantasy comes not from the exhilaration of superhumanity, but from the slaughter in and of itself. It's a game you play because you think it's fun to be cruel, not a game you play because you think it's fun to play with the idea of violence. If anything, this game and its reception make it clear that those are two very different things. Alright, you saw the thumbnail, so you already knew I was going to talk about Undertale, and this is where that's finally happening. Thank you for your patience. I have to talk about Undertale because it's a game that critiques its own violence. It is one of the few games I've ever seen that provides direct commentary on the fact that it's asking, or at least allowing, the player to do violence. And it's kind of amazing. In most JRPGs, you are meant to kill things. In Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, all games that Undertale takes inspiration from, if you refuse to engage in combat, you're gonna get killed. To level up and get stronger, you need XP, which you get by killing enemies. Even if the game allows you to flee from combat, you'll eventually face a foe that you are required to beat in order for the game to progress. Often, you just won't be powerful enough to take it on right away. So, you'll need to grind, which means killing as many enemies as possible, acquiring that juicy XP, before trying again. Undertale doesn't work this way. In Undertale, you're actually gently encouraged by the story, the characters, and the mechanics not to kill, if you can avoid it. In this game, it's a choice. Killing someone has weight. You can kill as many enemies as you want, you will get stronger, but you'll leave permanent scars on the game's world in the process. Once lively towns will become quiet and empty, any residents you haven't slaughtered yet will retreat further into the underground. In one case, a shopkeeper flees their post, leaving a note behind that begs you desperately not to kill their family. Puzzles, whimsical interactions, and friendly NPCs will almost completely disappear. You'll leave the vibrant, colorful world of the underground a hollow shell of its former self, a place so devoid of life and warmth that it's almost unrecognizable. In Undertale, this path through the game is called the genocide route, and there's a reason I want to talk about it. It is hard to even play the game this way. You don't just get the genocide route by killing a lot of monsters. It's a very intentional thing. To complete it, you have to grind, like really grind. Depending on the player, a genocide playthrough can take the game's usual 2 to 4 hour runtime and extend it to 7 to 8. Most of that extra time you spend walking in circles looking for monsters to kill or being killed by the route's exclusive super bosses. Bosses on the genocide route are way harder than their neutral or passive counterparts, by the way, and it's not hard to see why. The player here is literally on the same kind of genocide crusade as Hatred's protagonist, and the characters of Undertale's world, unsurprisingly, take that threat far more seriously. You've made it a matter of survival. They're responding in kind. The genocide route is, meaningfully, a dreadful way to play the game. In it, the characters hate you, the world hates you, the gameplay hates you, and there is vanishingly little in catharsis when it's all said and done. The reward for completing this murderous slog is the destruction of the entire world. You also destroy any opportunity for future redemption in the process. The game remembers your crimes and goes out of its way to punish you for them, even on subsequent playthroughs. The genocide route demands truly colossal amounts of self-inflicted misery. In other words, you're gonna have a bad time. Interestingly, none of that has stopped people from doing it. But I don't think that those are the same people that would seek out a game like Hatred. I don't think that the fact that people complete Undertale's genocide route is proof that the judge is right. Players don't endure the genocide route just to be cruel. They do it to see what cruelty feels like. And I think most of them walk away concluding that they don't like the feeling. I can't even guess how many people must have heartbroken ended their genocide run early after being forced to kill a beloved character. In 2018, Colin Campbell, the same writer who criticized the Hatred trailer, played the Doom reboot for the first time. By his own admission, violence makes him feel queasy. He'd been hesitant about even touching Doom for that reason. But when he finally got around to playing the game, something interesting happened. Despite his reservations, he found himself, quote, having a fine old time blowing demons to bits. Campbell liked the hyperviolence, how it dips almost into the realm of comedy. By leaning into its cartoonish extremities, he says that Doom's violence can be placed at a distance from so many other entertainments that take their killing seriously. Maybe, he goes on to say, that's something we all need from time to time. To a greater or lesser extent, the thrill of violence is in us all, a natural lighting up of our ancient instincts. So, maybe the judge is sort of right. Maybe violence is a natural tendency. Maybe there is something in humanity that craves to entertain and be entertained by those highest of all stakes, death and suffering. But one thing games like Doom and Undertale make abundantly clear is that this impulse can also be divorced from cruelty, that it can, in fact, be reduced to play. War endures, says the judge. For the moment, it does. Maybe humanity needs play to endure it. I've heard that play is a sort of evolutionary mechanism, a way to simulate experiences in order to learn about them in a lower stakes environment. So, violent play makes a lot of sense. But if that's true, then where are the games that will teach you the really hard technical stuff? Programming? Scientific thinking? Maths? They do exist, actually. And no, I'm not talking about Reader Rabbit or the Zoombinis. There's a grown-up, accessible, easy-to-use version of education that basically boils down to a lot of really compelling mini-games. It even has experience points that you can earn after every lesson. Look, here's the course I've been taking on scientific thinking. I know, I'm a robot, you'd think I know this stuff, but it's always been a little harder for me to wrap my head around. Not here. Here, it just feels like I'm solving puzzles. The only difference is that all of the solutions are also real, applicable information that I can use out in the world. If you've watched more than 3 YouTube videos in your life, you probably already recognize the app I'm talking about here. This is, of course, brilliant, and this is why you've heard so much about it. It deserves its reputation. It is legitimately a fantastic tool for developing an education while you go about your life. What I like most about Brilliant is that you're not just learning, you're playing. It moves at your pace and slots easily into your daily routines. The way it's structured really helps you to learn things rather than just memorize them. This is not a pop quiz. It's an experience. To give it a try, visit brilliant.org/TaleFoundry or scan the QR code on screen. There's literally zero risk because with our link, you'll get your first 30 days of Brilliant totally free. Even if it turns out not to be for you, you can just cancel, never spend a dime, and walk away with everything you've learned. A whole month of education, free. And if you want to keep going once you get started, use that same link for 20% off an annual subscription. Again, that's brilliant.org/TaleFoundry to get your first 30 days for free and 20% off your subscription. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get started. A big thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video and just making a really useful tool for people who want to learn. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye!